Hello everyone. Today my topic is Encapsulation Security Payload presented by Bharati Nadapana. First of all, why do we need ESP? Messages, documents and files sent via the internet are transmitted in the form of data packets using one or more transfer mechanisms or protocols such as TCP or IP. But how can we ensure that the information received is the authentic material which the originator of the message claims to have sent? Is it confidentiality has been preserved along the way? And is it retains the integrity and authenticity of the source material? One way to ensure all that is through encapsulating security payload or ESP. Now, what is ESP? Encapsulating security payload is a transport layer security protocol designed to function with both the IPv4 and IPv6 protocols. It takes the form of a header inserted after the Internet Protocol or IP address before an upper layer protocol like TCP, UDP and ICIP, and before any other IP section headers that have already been put in the place. ESP gives protection to upper layer protocols with a signed area indicating where a protected data packet has been 20 seconds signed for integrity, and an encrypted area which indicates the information thus protected with confidentiality. ESP may be used to ensure confidentiality, the authentication of data origins, connections integrity, traffic level confidentiality, and an anti-replay services. The set of services provided by ESP depends on the options selected when a security association was established and also on the location of the services deployment within the network configuration. Now, working of ESP. Encapsulating supports both main transport layer protocols, IP version 4 and IP version 6 protocols. It performs the functioning encryption of in headers of internet protocol, or in general say it resides and performs functions in IP header. One important thing to note here is that the insertion of ESP is between internet protocol and other protocols such as UDP, TCP or ICMP. Next, modes in ESP. Encapsulating security payload supports two modes, that is transport mode and tunnel mode. The first one is tunnel mode. It is mandatory in gateway. Tunnel mode holds utmost importance, and here a new IP header is created which is used as the outer IP header followed by ESP. Encapsulation or protective coverage occurs more extensively in tunnel mode, which creates and uses a new IP header as the utmost IP header of a datagram. This is followed by the ESP header, then the original datagram. As in transport mode, the ESP trailer and optional authentication data are appended to the payload. In tunnel mode, ESP completely protects the original datagram, which now forms the payload data for the newly formed ESP data packet. Again, though ESP doesn't protect the new IP header, gateways are required to use ESP in tunnel mode. The second mode is transport mode. Here, IP header is not protected via encryption or authentication, making it vulnerable to threats. Less processing is seen in this mode, so the inclusion of ESP is preferred. When used in transport mode, the ESP header follows the IP header of the original datagram. If the datagram carries an IP section header, then the ESP header goes before this. The ESP trailer and optional authentication data are inserted after the payload. Transport mode doesn't authenticate or encrypt the IP header, which can potentially expose the addressing information to attackers while the packet is in transit. But although it doesn't provide as much security protection as tunnel mode, Hosts typically use ESP in transport mode as this require less processing power. And next, components of ESP. This is a block diagram of ESP. It consists of security parameter, payload, data, sequence number, payload data, padding and authentication data. In the pad there is a small section of a pad, that is pad length and next header. An important point to authentication and note is that security are not provided for the entire IP packet in transport mode. On the other hand, for the tunnel mode, the entire IP packet along with the encapsulated new packet header is encapsulated. ESP structure is composed of the following parts as shown below. The diagrammatic representation of ESP has the below mentioned components. The first component is security parameter. Security parameters are assigned a size of 32 bits for use. Security parameter is mandatory to security parameter in ESP for security links and associations. The security parameters is an arbitrary number of 32 bits which in conjunction with the destination IP address and the ESP security protocol itself uniquely identifies the security association for a protected diagram. Second component is sequence number. The sequence number is 32 bits in size and works as an incremental counter. The first packet has a sequence number 1 assigned to it whenever sent through SA. It means a 32-bit sequence number is also mandatory and always present even if a receiver elects not to enable the anti-replay service for a given security association. The sender is obliged to always transmit this field of the ESP header, whose processing is left to the discretion of the recipient. Third component is payload data. Payload data don't have fixed size and are variable in size to use. It refers to the data content that is provided security by the method of encryption. This is a variable length data field containing the information described by the next header field. This field is mandatory and its length must be an integral number of bytes. And fourth component is padding. Padding has an assigned size of 0 to 255 bytes assigned to it. Padding is done to ensure that the payload data which needs to be sent security fits into the cipher block correctly. So for this padding, payloads come to the rescue. To ensure that the ciphertext resulting from data packet encryption terminates on a 4-byte boundary. Some padding in the 0 to 255 bytes range is used for 32-bit alignment. The 4-byte boundary condition is necessary to ensure that correct positioning of the authentication data field if present. Pad length. Pad length is assigned the size of 8 bits to use. It is a measure of pad bytes that are preceding. This is an 8-bit figure which specifies the length of the padding field in bytes. Next component is next header. The next header is associated with a size of 8 bits to use. It is responsible for determining the data type of payload by studying the first header of the payload. This field indicates that the nature of payload. The next header is an IP version 4 or IP version 6 protocols number describing the format of the payload data field. Next one is authentication data. The size associated with authentication data is variable and never fixed for use case. Authentication data is an optional field that is applicable only when SA is selected It serves the purpose of providing integrity. The ESP authentication contains the authentication data field which holds the integrity check value, that is ICV, and a message authentication code for verifying both the sender's identity and the message's integrity. The ICV is calculated with respect to the ESP header, the payload data, and the ESP trailer. So this is all about encapsulating security payload. Thank you.